So today we'll be starting with respiratory pharmacology, where we first deal with the drugs for cough. The drugs for cough. So before that, we need to know what is cough. Cough is basically a productive reflex, and it is of two types. First one is productive cough, the other one is non-productive cough. Productive cough is also known as a useful cough, as it helps in the clearance of the respiratory airway. The non-productive cough or dry cough is a useless cough. Now, cough is basically due to the stimulation of mechanochemoreceptors in the throat and the respiratory passage or stretch receptors of lungs. The typical cough that we come across is also known as the acute cough, which lasts less than 3 weeks, is due to viral respiratory infection. The drugs for cough. When it comes to the drugs for cough, you have pharyngeal demulcents, expectorants, mucolytics, cough center suppressants, and bronchodilators. Let's go one by one. What is pharyngeal demulcents? So, pharyngeal demulcent, it includes lozenges, syrups, glycerin, and licorice. Pharyngeal demulcent, what they do is they increase the salivation and they have a protective effect on the inflamed mucosa. So what they do is they soothe the throat. So that is given in case where cough arises due to the irritation above the larynx. Okay, and therefore, and it includes syrups which forms a protective layer. The second type is expectorants. You can see here pharyngeal demulcents, expectorants, mucolytics, antitussives, and bronchodilators. So the next one is expectorants. Expectorants means they're mucokinetics, that is, they increase the bronchial secretion or they reduce the viscosity of the sputum. Both of this lead to a cough which is less tiring and more productive. It includes potassium citrate and sodium citrate, which increases the bronchial secretion by salt action. Now, what you need to note is that there is no conclusive evidence to suggest that points to the efficacy of expectorants. So, what happened is the US FDA had stopped marketing all the expectorants except guaifenesin, which is a plant product. However, it is important to note that a steam inhalation or a proper hydration is sufficient. It is useful in clearing the airway rather than using an expectorant. Next is mucolytics. What does mucolytics do? You know, the word itself suggests that they break the sputum and therefore it lowers the viscosity. When that happens, it can be easily excreted. There are the examples are bromhexine, acetylcysteine, and carbocisteine. Acetylcysteine and carbocisteine is very important to be noted that they're contraindicated in peptic ulcer. Let's go to bromhexine. So bromhexine liberates the lysosomal enzymes, and these lysosomal enzyme depolarizes the mucopolysaccharides. Therefore, viscosity decreases. So this is given when there are mucolytic plugs. However, it has side effects, that is lacrimation and rhinorrhea. Its dosage for adults is 8 mg TDS. Next is ambroxol. Ambroxol is a metabolite of bromhexine itself with a similar action, but its dosage should be 15 to 30 milligram TDS. Next one is acetylcysteine and carbocisteine. Acetylcysteine and carbocisteine, both of them, what they do is they opens the disulfide bond, and therefore it make it less viscous. Acetylcysteine oral dose is 200 to 600 milligram TDS. It can be given by inhalation, 10 to 20% nebulized solution. Okay. uh, Next is side effects. Its side effects includes both of these have the similar side effects, which includes nausea, vomiting, bronchospasm. Gastric mucus barrier may be breached. Now, because the gastric mucus barrier may be breached when there is acetylcysteine and carbocisteine administered, it is contraindicated in case of peptic ulcer. Mucolytics are especially useful when the patient, in patients with tracheostomy, asthmatic bronchitis, etc., who have very thick sputum. The next one is antitussives. Antitussives, as I said before, is a cup center suppressor. Now, it is very important to note that it should not be given in normal cases. Okay, so it should be given only in case of a dry cough. It should be avoided in children, especially below the age of 1 year. and it should be given only if and only if the cough is very tiring, it disturbs your sleep, or it is hazardous. For example, the patient is having hernia or piles, or have some cardiac issues. Only in those cases you are supposed to give antitussives. So what does antitussives do? They raise the threshold of the cough centers of the CNS, or they act to reduce the tussle impulses on the respiratory tract, or they do both. They reduce the impulses as well as suppress the center. Now let's see one by one. These antitussives, basically you can cover divide it broadly to opioid and non-opioid. Opioid antitussives include codeine and ethylmorphine. Codeine is methylmorphine, and the other one is methylmorphine. So what you need to know is the most effective drug here is morphine itself, but morphine is having a lot of side effects, and therefore we are not giving it in case of a cough. Hmm? Now, codeine, which is methylmorphine, is less potent than morphine. So it has a mild CNS depression, okay, and it is contraindicated in case of asthmas and with patients with diminished respiratory reserve. Similar in case with ethylmorphine, very much similar. It is also contraindicated in case of asthmatic patients, but it is less potent. Next drug is noscapine, which is a non-opioid antitussive. The previous methylmorphine and ethylmorphine are opioid antitussives. Noscapine is a non-opioid antitussives. They depress the cough, but it has no narcotic, analgesic, or dependence effect. It is used in cases spasmodic cough. It is contraindicated in asthmatics because it causes bronchoconstriction due to histamine release. Okay, so it releases histamine which causes bronchoconstriction, so it is contraindicated in case of asthmatics. Its dosage is 15 to 30 milligram. Next is dextromethorphan. Dextromethorphan is a central NMDA receptor blocker. You see, it has two isomers. It has D form and L form. Its D form is antitussive, whereas its L form is analgesic. Okay, it does not depress any mucociliary function, and it does not have a side effect of constipation. However, it has a side effect at high doses. It causes hallucination and ataxia. Dosage is 10 to 20 milligram for adults, and it is not to be used in children less than 6 years of age. Next one is antihistamines, where you give H1 antihistamines. Basically, it is used in respiratory allergic state. So it is used to relieve it relieves the cough due to its sedative action, due to its anticholinergic action. See, cholinergic receptor M3 receptor is present in the smooth muscles of the bronchus, which causes bronchoconstriction. Okay, so through its anticholinergic effect, also it reduces, and also due to its anti-allergic action. The next one we see here is bronchodilators. See, bronchodilators are not given usually. It is given only when bronchoconstriction is also present with cough. So patient is having cough along with bronchoconstriction. In those cases, we give bronchodilators. Now, how does that happen? Because of the stimulation of the pulmonary receptors, especially in those individuals with bronchial sensitivity, cough and bronchoconstriction comes together. So you're giving bronchodilators. So when you give bronchodilators, it also helps in clearing the secretions. So that's all about the drugs for cough. To be precise, you need to remember this table.